Okay, so on page 11, okay, so the advantage of buying a new car would be lower maintenance costs, right? And if you had to justify it, I'm sure you would be able to muster something, right? But the basic idea is usually under warranty. I can't think of a manufacturer that doesn't provide some kind of warranty when you're buying a brand new car. So that will take care of major repairs, right? Like you don't have to worry about your transmission going. If your transmission goes, you're looking at thousands of dollars, right? If anything in your engine goes wrong, it's every time, right? You go to a mechanic, they'll already tell you just by looking at it, they'll be like, yeah, it'll be a couple of $1,000 right there, you know. Next would be safer. And why is it safer? Okay, it is because it has the latest safety features, right? It has the latest safety features, like it has lane departure, right? It has airbags all over the place, right? Like a curtain around you almost, right? It has all these, it has ABS or it has an advanced braking system. It senses, like some of the cars even sense what kind of terrain you're on, right? And they will adjust so you're not, heading into the ditch. They will adjust. They're a lot faster than a human can react, right? They are more fuel efficient, and that goes without saying, right? The newer cars, they're striving towards, same performance, same power, less fuel, right? Even trucks are going that way, and so they're becoming more fuel efficient. Okay. Another advantage of buying brand new is you can personalize or customize. Um, I never had the privilege of buying brand new. Maybe you know someone, or maybe your parents were able to. My father-in-law was able to buy a brand new one a couple of years ago, and they literally had a brochure, and with all the features you could add, and everything you added would bump the cost. Like it was actually online. You could just click, I want this color, I want this trim, I want heated seats, I want, you know, and you can really customize it. Even the color, right? If you want to go, I want that specific color, they can make it happen, right? And you can customize it. It will cost you, but you can do it, right? So if you're into that, buy new. Okay. What's the advantage of buying used? Well, it has a lower depreciation cost, right? You don't lose as much per year. Every car loses value. There's nobody's gonna deny that, but it's gonna be less, right? It's gonna slow down. Like if you buy a 4-year-old car, still in very good condition, but it's not gonna lose its value as much as the first owner, right? Um, this is a tricky one. You have to be careful. You pay less taxes if bought privately, right? So there is a potential for saving on taxes because if you buy privately, you only pay, right? I should add that, only pay the PST, which is 7%. And this one we'll talk about later, but I will already mention it here. It's cheaper to insure, right? It costs less to insure because one big factor or driver for the insurance is the cost of replacing it. So if you total it, right, if you crash, how much is it going to cost them to replace it, a used vehicle is going to be less, so usually cheaper. Okay. This is another one. Lower registration fees. I know that nowadays they say that there are no hidden fees anymore when you buy a car. Um, but when you buy brand new, there are certain paperwork that needs to be done, and it will be in the price somewhere. You might not see it, but it's there. They add it to their cost, right? Because the car dealers, they want to make money, and you don't blame them, right? So there you go. In fact, some of you might know someone that is actually a car salesman, right? You might actually know more than me. So if you have anything to add, you can always let me know, and I don't mind learning new things. Okay. Disadvantage of buying new, and you'll find that the advantage for buying new, okay, might be a disadvantage, might be used as a disadvantage for used, right? You can almost flip it and say, if a new car, right, has lower maintenance cost, then a used car would have higher maintenance costs. So you can kind of just flip it and mention it there too. Okay, so here we go. Disadvantage is high depreciation cost. Lower depreciation cost, I'm flipping it and I say, hey, for a new car, you pay more, you lose more, right? Higher insurance cost, premiums. I will use premiums. It's the same as cost, right? You got to get used to those words. You pay freight, right? For transportation. For a used car, you don't worry about that, right? I mean, there's always an if, right? But, right? Or if you buy, some people buy cars online. You can buy one in Alberta or BC or whatever, and you can get it shipped to you here. So, but in general, that's for a new car, you pay that. Okay. Used, we'll say a disadvantage is higher maintenance costs. I will say that it's most likely out of warranty. You could say that it's not as safe, okay? And that is compared to similar new car. Not as fuel efficient. And a used car, right? It doesn't. You're most likely going to run into, oh, the shocks are worn out. I'm going to have to replace those. Tires are usually worn out. You got to replace them, right? And the tires, depending on what car, you're looking at $500 to $1,200, depending on the size, right? And it's expensive. Uh, all those things. I mean, technically, if it's been safety before you buy it, it's always a gray line. Some mechanics are okay with passing things. It's like, yeah, that's passable. But then when you own the car, you're like, well, the thread is almost gone. Like I should be replacing it, right? If you want to be safe, you don't want your tire to pop when you're driving 100 clicks an hour, right? Down the freeway. Okay, that's it. That's so make sure you have these on there, and make sure you have maybe two of each on a study sheet on a very compressed format so that it's maybe just some key words, not the whole thing, but it will help you out. Okay. So what a lot of students, a common mistake is like, what's an advantage of buying used? It's cheaper. That's all they say, and that's not good enough for the province. You're not specific. If you said it's cheaper because if you buy it privately, you only pay 7%. Okay, now we're talking, right? it's cheaper to insure. Now we're talking, you're specific, right? So there it is. All right, so now I'm gonna actually stop this. I'm just gonna pause. Let's go to page 12. Okay. So I think I'm just gonna tell you that a payment is always made up of two components. It has a principal and it has the interest. So these two always add up to your payment. So there's a trifecta going on there, right? So I could give you payment and interest, right? Those numbers, you could figure out the principal, right? You would just subtract. If I give you the principal and the payment, you could just subtract here and get what the interest is because you know that principal and interest always add up to your payment. Okay, so that's what we're going to start with. So financing, so we can also call this car loan, right? We're going to call this a car loan section. Many people cannot afford to buy a vehicle outright, so they borrow money from a lending institution. That's just a bank, a credit union, you name it, and you pay it back over time. The principal is what we call the money or amount borrowed. That's the amount that is owed. Okay. I will tell you this, right? Like I will add something here. This is also referred to as balance owing. Okay, you owe a balance. That's the principal. And you're like, Mr. Dirksen, didn't you just say there's a principal in the payment? Yes. The principal portion of your payment goes towards knocking down the actual big principal, which is what you owe the bank. Okay, so there's a bit of there's like the big principal and the small principal, right? Interest. It's the cost of borrowing or finance charge. And I will clarify this. We can calculate this using the interest rate, which is going to be as a percentage, okay? So interest is, in this case, it's a dollar amount. So the interest in dollars, it's the cost of borrowing or the finance charge. Vehicle loans typically should be paid off in 5 to 7 years. Interest rates are commonly in the range of, and this varies, right? So I'm going to say 3% to 8%. It depends on your credit rate, like the rating. How well have you been paying even if they look at cell phone bills and stuff like that, have you been paying on time? And that also depends. And I know you were going to say, Mr. Erickson, I've seen 0% financing. 0% financing is only for brand new vehicles, okay? And you also have to have a good credit rating for that. And I would argue that the interest is in the price of the car. You think it's 0%. It's not necessarily true. All right, so some formulas, which I would strongly suggest you add to your study sheet because it's not on the formula sheet, right? So To calculate the monthly payment, right, you take the amount that you borrowed. That's called the loan as well, if you want to add that. It's called the loan times a table rate, and that's the name says it all. It's like there's going to be a table that you're going to have to use, and you divide that by 1,000. That table is going to be found on page 14, so you're going to have to use that table when you're doing questions, when you're calculating questions here. Interest on loan, and this is, I'm going to highlight the fact that it's the total interest on loan, is your monthly payment times length of loan in months, right, minus the amount borrowed. Okay. And I will add a few things. How would you get the length of the loan in months? Well, you would just go years times 12. That's how you get the length of the loan. So if it's a 5-year loan, then be 5 times 12, which gives you 60, and so forth. 4 times 12 is 48. Like 4 years would be 48 and stuff like, and so forth. Okay. I will also add something here. Arrow from the loan, right? The loan is the purchase price, purchase minus down payment. So if there is a down payment here, you have to subtract it before you plug it into this formula, and I will show you examples for it. So to find the monthly payment, it's only on what you're borrowing, because you could have a $5,000 down payment, you pay that off, and then you're only borrowing the rest, right? So if it's a $20,000 car, you have 5 saved, you'd only put 15,000, because this calculates the payment to pay that back that you're borrowing, okay, not necessarily the value of the car. Okay. So let's try a couple here. Example 1, you need to borrow a total of $31,500 to buy a new car. So you need to borrow, right? The dealership offers you a 5-year loan at a rate of 3.5%. Calculate the following, right? The monthly payment. How would you calculate the monthly payment? Well, we're going to use that formula up here. So I'm just going to say payment is going to be, you're borrowing the entire purchase price, right? There's no down payment mentioned. So 31,500 times a table rate divided by 1,000. How do you get that table rate? You will have to match the term with the interest rate. So you're gonna have to, we're gonna match these two, and we're gonna go get a value from the chart. So in this case, what's our interest rate? It's 3.5%, and the term is how long you're taking the loan out for, 5 years. So we're gonna match 5 years and 3.5%, and we're gonna go get that table rate from our chart. So let's go to page 14. The long table there, the whole page, right? So I'm going to cover this up a bit. So the term is up here, right? So 5 years up there, 3.5 is right here. So you just look over, and it's 1819 right there. What is that? I need you to understand that number. It is this. It's the monthly payment per $1,000 that you're borrowing, and it includes the principal and interest, right? Whenever you get your payment, it's going to include both portions in that payment. So we take the 1819 with us. For now, I'm going to write it down in here as well, 1819. and we're going to plug it into our formula. So amount borrowed times 1819 divided by 1,000. And what do we get? It'll be a dollar amount, right? So you get 31,500 times 1819 divided by 1,000, and you get 572.99. Okay, because that 5 bumps that up to a 9. So 572.99. This is my final answer here. That's per month. And it stays the same, guys. It's for the 5 years, 60 months, right? It's going to stay the same, 572.99. In the background, that table that I showed you, the principal and the interest that make up this payment is going to change from month to month, right? But this amount that you pay them will not. B, it's saying to calculate the total amount paid back to the bank in 5 years. So total paid to bank, right, would be your monthly payment, which is $572.99. We're going to multiply that by 5 years, and we're going to multiply it by 12. The 12 is always going to be there because we are only going to deal with monthly payments. Okay, this is fixed. This will change based on if it's a 4-year, 3-year, 2-year loan, right? That will change. But if they're just asking how much did you pay the bank, this is what you paid them, right? So that's 572.99 times, let's find out that 5 times 12 is 60, right? 60 months. So 572.99 times 60 is 34,379.40. Do not add taxes to a question where there's financing, okay? Don't worry about taxes. I won't do that to you. Like some students will add taxes to this and then do the whole work based on taxes. This is when you're ready to get the loan, that price will already have everything included, right? So you're just now seeing, hey, how much I'm going to pay monthly for this amount that I need. Okay, so this is paid to the bank, not necessarily paid for the car, because sometimes there's a down payment. You would have to add the down payment here. This is just the bank. Okay, there's no down payment, so the amount paid to the bank and the car after 5 years is the same. Total interest paid on the loan. Here we're going to use our formula, even though it's going to repeat what we did up here. But I'm going to go back up to my formula here. Total interest paid. It says monthly payment, which is $572.99, times length of the loan in months. I'm still going to go times 5 times 12. It's okay to put times 60 right away. There's nothing wrong with it. All of that minus the amount you borrowed. What did you borrow? It's always going to be up here, right by the formula to calculate the monthly payment. That's what goes here. So 31,500 goes here. We already did this up here, so I'm just going to go ahead and take advantage of that and just rewrite it. Let me just scroll down my camera a bit here. Minus 31,500, and that is 2,879.4 and 40, right? We need to have the 40 there. This is referred to as the finance charge, total interest paid, same thing. Okay. Cost of borrowing, that's another way of looking at it. Sometimes B is not like question B. Imagine this question without B, like without this part here. Like almost block that off. I could say, hey, what's the payment? And then ask you what's the total interest you've paid, right? You just take that payment. You go payment times 5 years times 12, and then minus what you borrow, okay? To get the total interest. All right? Good? So the important part is to read the questions carefully, okay? So example 2. Use the car in example 1. If you decided to go with a 3-year loan, how would your monthly payment and interest paid change? Okay, if you go with a 3 versus a 5, what do you think is going to happen to the interest paid? The total interest paid to the bank. If you take less time to pay off, the total interest is going to go up. Total interest is going to go up, okay? What about the monthly payment? If you take less time to pay it off, your monthly payment is going to go down. You take less time to pay off the same amount, right? It's going to go up, right? So let's see what happens, okay? So that's why I do this. Like, I want you to actually see it, okay? So here we go. Let's figure out our payment because it will have changed, right? It's 31,500 multiplied by a table rate. Whenever you find your payment, folks, you have to go get that table. Okay, you have to get a number from the table. So now we're going to match. I'm going to give myself more room here. 3 years, right? And it's still 3.5%. So we're going to match that and get a rate. So let's go to page 14. I'm just going to cover this up for 1 second. 3.5. I'm here at 3 years. It's 29.30. Okay. So that's what I use here, 29.30. And then I go 31,500 times 29.30 divided by 1,000. That's $922.95. Almost $1,000 a month just to have a nice car, right? Better have a good job. What do we compare this to? What was our payment earlier? It was $572.99, right? So we're going to say versus $572.99. Okay. So what happened to our monthly payment? Payment went up. Okay. Payment went up significantly, right? Total interest. How do we do total interest again? You take your monthly payment times 9.5. However, this time it's a 3-year loan times 12. And I always like to put this in brackets because this is how much you've paid the bank over 3 years. and you're going to go minus, what did I start off with? I started with 31,500. Let's figure out what the bracket is. That's 33,226, 20 minus 31,500. And then I'm going to subtract that. And you get 1,726.20 versus, I need to go back and check, 2879.40, right? Total interest went down. Okay, so this is technically what we got, right? And this, we got this payment, and this is the total interest. So the total interest went down. Okay, what happened to the term? The term went down, right? So versus 5 years. So if you go up here, just say, hey, this is a, we're comparing it to the 5-year loan. So the term is how long are you going to take to pay it, went down. Okay. So if you take less time to pay it off, it's going to hurt you in the short run. Like, you're going to pay more every month, but the total interest paid is going to go down. Why is that? Well, you're paying it off faster. There's less time to accumulate interest, right? There's less time. You're paying it off faster. And that's the key there. That's the secret. Okay, I think we're done. Just submit that AC, okay?